Ladies and gentlemen, fight fans all around the world, we're talking some boxing. So, we got a lot to talk about. Even though there haven't been a lot of high profile fights over this weekend, Shakur Stevenson was supposed to face Miguel Mariana. But that didn't happen because, as you know, fights were canceled. But there were other minor fights that happened over the weekend. On Friday, we had some matchups that happened, and on Sunday, we had some matchups that happened. As you know, a lot of fights have been canceled or at least delayed or put off until this COVID-19 Cornella, whatever. The virus, once that situation's under control, then you're going to hear more about all these other fights that are on the cards. Nonetheless, we're talking Floyd Mayweather right now, and it's the Floyd Mayweather show once again. And unfortunately, this is where we're going with this video today. But first, let me just talk about a couple other things. So besides the COVID-19 business, it stopped a lot of boxing, so we just kind of have very little upcoming fights to talk about. A lot of the upcoming fights have been canceled. And some of the weekend fights, Shakur Stevenson was supposed to defend his title. That was canceled. Well, we got some other things I want to talk to you guys about concerning that, which is that what happens to the boxing schedule and these fighters when they're not getting paid? Because, you get paid after you fight, not before. So what does that mean for Shakur? I don't know. There's some other upcoming fights this coming weekend. I don't know if they're also in jeopardy of happening. So we have to see what's going on with that. But let me talk to you guys about, of course, the prospect of certain fighters in boxing. Terrell Knox says Tyson Fury is banned for 8 years. I was just about to talk about Tyson Fury and this Glovegate thing. Now, it's not Glovegate we're talking about now. We're talking about Nandro Salon, which Tyson Fury had someone witness testify in a court of law that he got from some wild boar meat. And apparently, UCAD is looking into that. He's been investigated for that. And from what I hear, some people are saying he's been banned from boxing for 8 years. I guess in the UK. Because UCAD deals with UK. So that would be crazy if that's true. I don't know how true that is. For now, it's a rumor as far as I know. But, this is what I was trying to explain to people, that it does not pay to cheat. It doesn't pay to cheat out here. Tyson Fury is a very promising boxer. One of the best boxers in boxing. So I don't know what's going to come of this. We're going to find out soon enough what the real story is. Some outlets are posting that he's banned from boxing. I don't think so. UCAD is going to be looking into it and investigating it as to whether he's banned from boxing or not. I don't think he's banned yet. But he could serve up to an 8-year ban for lying. So we'll see how that goes. Now, the WBC president said that he believes Tyson Fury's word over the gentleman who came out and said that Tyson Fury and his team lied about getting Andros for wild boar meat, and that he was supposed to be paid £25,000 for it. The farmer. So we'll see how that goes. But what I would say is that with respect to the situation, I just want boxers out there, in this sport of boxing, and there's widespread cheating when it comes to PEDs in boxing. And Berdowis, he talked about that to some degree. He was one of our subscribers. But these people need to pay for what they do, unless they're cleared. Canelo was cleared. But Shakur Stevenson, in a recent interview on Sway in the Morning, was talking about he didn't even believe that Canelo was clean. He doesn't believe the excuse that Canelo ate tainted meat. You know, and maybe there's something to that too. Who knows? You know, I'm not going to even try to defend Canelo on that. Now, the percentage of clenbuterol that was found in his metabolic system is consistent with the amounts that you'd find if someone ingested tainted meat quite recently, right? So maybe he gets a pass there, maybe he doesn't, but there's the problem. Problem is, suppose he really is using clenbuterol for different reasons. I mean, it certainly shows up in your system that's adverse. It may not be significant amounts of it, but adverse. It does lead to a cause for concern, because our bodies don't produce that kind of abnormal amounts of clenbuterol, and especially clenbuterol is not native to the body. So this is very interesting. So it does lead to, and you know what's the thing that really gets me, man? Everybody here knows I like Tyson Fury. I like Canelo. I like them. I like their fighting style, that is. I'm talking boxing only. I don't know them as people. But I really like Tyson Fury's boxing style. And I also like Canelo's boxing style. I really like both of them. But, man, I mean, come on, man. Why do we have to cheat? All these guys try to get an edge in boxing, and that's the thing that really gets me, man. Which leads me to Canelo versus Billy Joe Saunders, which has been canceled. It was supposed to be Cinco de Mayo weekend. And I was listening to a particular UK channel, which was interviewing a UK gentleman, and he was saying that he don't even give Billy Joe Saunders a 10% chance of beating Canelo. And he went on to say that, you know, Billy Joe's not faced that level of competition that Canelo has faced with them. There's very few new fighters who have. And he was saying, you know, how Canelo had faced Danny Jacobs and all these guys, and therefore Billy Joe Saunders would not be a threat. And he doesn't understand how everybody else could be thinking that. And he feels that Canelo would stop Billy Joe Saunders if Billy Joe Saunders make it to final Belgrade. And, you know, I mean, that's his opinion. He's on a Boxing Talk podcast. But this is a UK gentleman having no confidence in his UK fighter. What do I think about it? All right, personally, like I said before, I think Billy Joe Saunders is one of those guys who gives Canelo a tough fight. Period. You know, they said, well, what's the top tier competition Billy Joe Saunders has faced? What is it? You know, he faced David Lemieux, wasn't world champion or anything, but he made David Lemieux look like he doesn't belong in the ring with him. You know, he faced Chris Eubank Jr. And he faced I can't say because I have to wait a little bit. But those two names, there's more. But my point anyway is this, okay? Andy Lee is another guy. But my point is this. That Billy Joe Saunders, yes, you look at the level of competition Canelo faced, which is vastly different. I expect Canelo to win, you know. But Billy Joe Saunders is a guy that can upset the apple cart. I'm going to tell you why. The difference between Billy Joe Saunders and a Danny Jacobs or a Gennady Golovkin, okay, is Billy Joe Saunders is a thinking fighter. Danny Jacobs is a thinking fighter too. But he's also southpaw. Demetrius Andrade and Billy Joe Saunders are southpaws. Like Danny Jacobs, Billy Joe Saunders can fight at almost any range. Canelo has only faced a handful of opponents who could fight at any range. Okay? Gennady Golovkin's mid-range. Danny Jacobs can fight at any range. Araceli Lara is out long range. Even though he has been fighting in close of late. Floyd Mayweather can fight at any range. Austin Trout can fight at any range. Alright? Koloff is an outboxer. I'm just talking the best of them that he faced. Mika Cotto is more of an inside fighter, mid-range fighter. But he can box on the outside. My point anyway is Billy Joe Saunders is a southpaw. But unlike Arislan Delara, unlike Danny Jacobs, who can go southpaw, he's a seasoned southpaw, like Demetrius Andrade. He's quick, he's fast, he knows his boxing, and he can fight at any range and make adjustments in that ring. And once he's in shape, he doesn't come in sluggish. He's a force to reckon with, and he'll be motivated to face Canelo. I want to say it'll be hard to beat Canelo because Canelo would have all the advantages going into that fight, meaning because he's the A side, he would dictate what he wants. But I do believe that Billy Joe Saunders will give him hell. It'll be a tough fight. A lot of people dismissing, guys like who I just listened to, they're dismissing Billy Joe Saunders. They think he only has a 10% chance. I just don't see that. I see Billy Joe Saunders having much more than a 10% chance against Canelo. And that's going to be a tough fight for Canelo. And a lot of people just don't understand, until they see the skill of Billy Joe Saunders. Apparently, a lot of people underestimate Billy Joe Saunders' skill. He's a very skilled fighter. Yeah, in his most recent fight against the Argentinian dude, the guy was able to counter him, but he made an adjustment. He made the adjustment in range, and it made the guy reach in, and that's how he got to hurt the guy eventually, get him out of there. So Billy Joe Saunders is one of those guys who knows how to make adjustments in fights. He's a smart fighter. So I just don't think the people who are saying, this is going to be, Billy Joe Saunders has very little chance of beating Canelo, I don't believe that at all. What Billy Joe Saunders brings to the table mightn't be something that Canelo has not seen before. Of course, he's going to say I've seen certain things about that. But one thing I can tell you is Billy Joe Saunders is a guy who is head and shoulders above the rest of the competition out there. He's like Demetrius Andrade. He's like Jamal Charlo. He's like David Benavidez. These guys have separated themselves. Caleb Plant, right? They separated themselves from the rest of the division. He's one of the top tier guys. So I would love to see him against Canelo and see how he fares. We're going to see him against Demetrius Andrade. I wanted to know how he fared against that, or how Andrade would fare against him. Those are mouth-watering fights. So we'll see what happens. I mean, he gets the W, but sometimes he doesn't do it in an impressive fashion. He may start off impressively and then just kind of die down. Again, I think it has to do with his conditioning. If his conditioning's on point, he's properly conditioned. This Canelo fight is going to be tough for Canelo. All right, let's get into what we're going to talk about, which is Floyd Mayweather. So, a lot of people wonder why Floyd was able to beat all the competition he faced. Jeff Mayweather explained that Floyd started before everyone. He said by the time Floyd was 8, 9, 10 years old, Floyd was doing the things grown adults were doing. He was trained in the way how grown adults train. That's how they knew he was going to become great. And his father had him running behind his car, running 7 miles, 8 miles every day as a 7-year-old. That's crazy shit. Okay? I think because Floyd had encountered and dealt with problems, and Jeff Mayweather said his father trained him as if he was a pro boxer, not even amateur. So Floyd was just light years ahead of everybody else in his respective division, and I think that's why he was able to be undefeated for so long. Jeff went on to say that his father, Floyd, didn't have a say in what he wanted to become. His father programmed him to be a fighting machine, and that's what he became. Jeff explained why Floyd was able to make adjustments so rapidly, because he had seen all the different scenarios a long, long time ago. He said what the moves that Floyd was pulling at 34, 35, he was doing since he was at the age of 7. In fact, I remember Floyd Mayweather Sr. saying Floyd was actually more explosive and even more skilled and talented when he was young than when he was old. He said the things you would see this guy do, and that's why Jeff Mayweather said, and Senior and all the Mayweathers were saying that they had no doubt he would be one of the greatest, if not the greatest boxer of all time. They kind of knew that from a long time ago when he was a child. He was doing some remarkable things, and that's how they knew he was going to be different. Now, Jeff Mayweather went on to say this about Floyd Mayweather, and I'm talking about Floyd Mayweather for a reason, people. If you want to be really, really good at something, take, for instance, Canelo Alvarez right now. There ain't nobody that anyone thinks could beat Canelo Alvarez. You know why? Canelo's so far ahead of the curve of everybody else right now in his respective weight classes. And fans still think that power and strength and size wins you fights, and speed and quickness and all these kinds of crazy things. One guy, Ali Sekback was interviewing Fernando Vargas, and he was Robert Garcia. I think it was somebody else in the boxing. Mikey Garcia was there, and they were asking people about their favorite fight. First of all, let me make a disclaimer. Jeff Mayweather said it's one of the dumbest questions to ask someone about a what-if hypothetical scenario, a matchup between two fighters from different eras. He said why this is a dumb question is because don't expect the guy who has his favorite fighter to be convinced that the other guy, fighter or favorite fighter, will beat him, because it all comes down to who you like, okay? And Jeff Mayweather is to some degree correct. He then goes on to say, however, that while it's a matter of opinion concerning who would win, it is not a matter of opinion based on facts, the accomplishments of a fighter. So Jeff Mayweather went on to say, like, for example, with Floyd Mayweather, he said when you look at the actual numbers and the actual facts of Floyd Mayweather, there are very few fighters in history who even come close to those facts. And he went on to say that Floyd Mayweather was the longest reigning champion, and so on and so on and so on and so on. One of the oldest fighters, if not the oldest fighter, to be the greatest fighter of his era, and all this stuff. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So anyway, Jeff Mayweather said something that was very interesting, and I wanted to highlight it. So there was this what if that Ellie said back through, what if Sugar Ray Leonard faced Floyd Mayweather? And so Robert Garcia immediately said, well, Sugar Ray Leonard is his favorite fighter. So he believes that Sugar Ray Leonard would beat Floyd Mayweather. Fernando Vargas, when asked the question, said he believes Floyd Mayweather would beat Sugar Ray Leonard. And so did Mikey Garcia. And Fernando Vargas said the reason Floyd Mayweather was so dominant in this era, and some argue BTBE, is because he used his intelligence in the ring. It wasn't about how fast he was. It wasn't about how powerful he was. It wasn't about how quick his feet were, or how strong he was. No, it was how smart he was. And he says he does not think that there's anybody in, the recent history of boxing, whether it's Sugar Ray Leonard or, any one of those guys, who would beat Floyd because Floyd was too smart for them. He said it's, his boxing IQ, the way how he applied himself in the ring, the way how he dedicated himself to boxing, his boxing IQ was the thing that he thought Mayweather had. Because Mayweather, just the way how he makes decisions in the ring, even though they're not really decisions, they're more But Fernando Vargas said this, because Floyd was boxing for such a young age. I think Jeff Mayweather said the same thing. His adjustments and the way how he makes adjustments so fast, is always going to be faster than everybody else. So the way how he assesses situations and makes adjustments, it just naturally is going to be faster than everybody else, because he's been doing it for so long, and he reached a very, very high level so young in his life. Like I said before, at the age of 7, 8 years old, this dude was doing things that, we see him do in the ring at 20 something, late 20s, 30s. He'd been doing it since he was 7. That's way ahead of the curve. That's really way ahead of the curve. Not just the fundamentals, but the decision making that he makes in the ring. And, another thing Michael Garcia said was, you look at it, the man fought every single kind of fighter. Whether it's a big puncher, or whether it's a thinking fighter, whether it's a guy bigger than him or smaller than him, faster than him. Zab Judah was faster than Floyd, much faster than Floyd. And Floyd still beat him. And, that was because, again, Floyd Mayweather was a smart fighter. And I think that's where, that's what allowed him to be triumphant over just about every style of boxing that was presented to him. Sugar Ray Leonard was out-thought by Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran conned Sugar Ray Leonard into fighting his game. And I think that influenced and affected Sugar Ray Leonard. Something that would never have happened to Floyd. Never. And it just showed Floyd's boxing IQ was superior to Sugar Ray Leonard's. Of course, his defense was also better than Sugar Ray Leonard's, but be that as it may, Sugar Ray Leonard had more exciting fights, no doubt about that. But when you look at, in terms of intelligence and applying oneself and sticking to a game plan and being disciplined, Mayweather was the guy that did that. Fight after fight after fight. Right? Ray Leonard Ray Leonard was great, don't get me wrong. He was also a thinking man fighter. But whereas it took Leonard a very long time to make adjustments, say a Thomas Hearns was outboxing him, or he had to get instructions on the Marvin Hagler fight. Mayweather, didn't necessarily need a trainer. Yeah. But this is not all I wanted to talk about. Josie Harris. So far, the results from the autopsies and so on, we don't really have straightforward information so far. But we see that Floyd was devastated by that loss of Josie Harris. He immediately stopped his tour, head back to the United States to be with his family, his children, etc. And posted up a whole bunch of pics on Instagram concerning Josie, who obviously Floyd still loved and really appreciated her a lot. No one really knows how she died in her car. I can give a suggestion. I think it's an aneurysm she had, and a vessel popped in her head. From what we know is they discovered her in her car. I don't know if it was the day after. She seemed to have returned home in her car the night, and apparently she returned home in her car, but then after that, she never got out of her car. And just to let you guys know, I know of a 34-year-old pastor who he went into his car, turned the keys, turned the car on, and then died. Okay? Aneurysm. And that's because you're not sleeping properly, etc. I don't know how she was taking care of her body. She was an actress. She had written a book. She was pressing on with a career. She was doing well. I assume Floyd was supporting her and supporting his children at the same time. She did have anxiety on facing Floyd. She wrote that in a book, because she felt that he would be violent in some way, shape, or form to her. But we have seen her show up in one of Floyd Mayweather's last fights. I think it was against Andre Berto. She showed up. She was there. So, I don't know how things herself and Floyd was going, but obviously Floyd loved her a lot. And I believe this is affecting the whole family in a very negative way. I do not know how the children are taking it. She was 40 years of age. When you reach your 40s, even in your 30s, your late 30s especially, you have to take care of your health. I don't know how she was doing with her health. And then, with a stressful life like that, for reasons unknown to me, who knows what happened. But apparently, no foul play was in play there. This is what the police say. So nobody got shot. There was no injuries to her body. It seemed as though she died from, I believe it was an aneurysm. Something popped in her head. And it could be because just the stress of life and just trying to raise the kids the right way, and then possibly trying to push her career forward. Maybe not eating as healthy as she should. People die just suddenly for no reason at all, it seems, except something burst in their head or burst in their body. So it's very possible that she had an aneurysm. And that's the thing that's killing a lot of young people today. I don't know if she was tracking her health and taking care of herself. And it's easy for somebody to just pop up and die, dude. So, it's one of those things. But we'll find out exactly what happened to her. And in time, they'll give results from the autopsy. That's crazy, though. Just suddenly dying. That's a shocker for everybody. And that's another thing. A lot of people feel that Floyd Mayweather Jr. has a dream life or something. Man, this man's seen tragedy after tragedy. Well, one of the guys who was, used to really support Floyd and helped him through the tough times. He just up and died on him. He's had a lot of loved ones up and die on him. Roger Mayweather ain't doing too good. His father had some brain trauma issues. Uncle Jeff almost died. It's just one of those things where, the guy's carrying on his career and doing what he's got to do, but, there's a lot of tragedies happening around that dude. And how do you keep on maintaining a standard? And all this, again, is for the younger boxers. I'm not saying this in a void. My point is, you have to be dedicated to what you want to do. If you want to be the best, I was listening to Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson was speaking about, the pathway that they're charting for him, so he could be considered the best ever, right? It's a good thing to do. And, he was talking about how he could beat certain fighters at featherweight. Lomachenko's, the Gary Russell Jr.'s, the Gervonta Davis's, the Floyd Mayweather's. And he's supposed to think like that. Do I personally think that he could execute all those things he said? Why should I doubt the kid? I have my doubts because, I know that I never really seen I'll put it this way. I never really seen Shakur inside game. He usually uses an outside game. But he probably has an inside game, just, And a lot of the guys he's already sparred. Gervonta Davis, he sparred, Devin Haney, and so on and so on. And they talk about Devin Haney, all these other guys, Ryan Garcia, how would you fare against those guys? And he had an answer, a definitive answer, which was very good. He's a very young guy, still green, but it was nice to see him, again, you don't want young fighters. Ryan Garcia right now is calling out Gervonta Davis. You don't want young fighters to be thinking that somebody else is better than them. They have to think in their minds that they're the best. And they have to have the mindset of it. And I was listening to Shakur Stevenson, where he was talking about how, he was talking about the fact that, he was raised to be a champion. That was his goal. So, it's not strange that he became a champion, And that's a different mindset, a different confidence. And, he talks about, working out in the gym and stuff so that, every scenario that he could possibly think of, he's already kind of went through. So he's not really worried about what will happen in the ring. And that is a serious confidence, because when you go into the ring, you could be overwhelmed by the situation that you have in front of you, especially with all these people watching you as you do your thing. Right? It's one thing to be talking on the internet where you can't really see the immediate response of people, to versus, being there and they're right there and all eyes on you. Some performers freeze up on that. So that's what we mean by confidence. But this year has been a year of upsets, so it's been an interesting time. So I'm not sharing Floyd Mayweather with you guys just for no reason. This is for the boxers and the people who are upcoming to appreciate certain things. Like, for example, like I said earlier on, intelligence beats all those natural attributes. I prefer to have brains inside that boxing ring and be able to know how to handle myself in that boxing ring, because I have brains. And be the fastest or the sharpest or the quickest or the most powerful or the strongest. Because if I got brains, I'll know how to maneuver around those things and get the W. All right? So, you all guys know I dub Floyd Mayweather. I say whatever he says he is, he is. And he said he's TBE, therefore he's TBE. Okay? This man has more than proven himself to be that. A lot of you guys at the time, you just said, no, he's not TBE. Just bring your criteria. Bring your criteria, and that would be that. Right? Anyway, I'm what you need. I have a lot more to say, but I'm going to hold that back for another time. To have. Very good.